Okay, so let's get started. And so welcome everyone. I'm kind of hosting, Andrew and I are kind of hosting this conversation today. And we are hoping that you had an opportunity to watch our panel, The Frequency of Oneness and Sacredness Alignment. And we have a new friend here, Maureen Edwardson. I think everybody knows her, so she probably doesn't need to do much of an introduction. Do you know everybody, Maureen? Does everybody know you?
Well, I think that Jenny and Jim may not know me. However, as I said, I was in Australia at the Rainbow Corroboree, crashing Andrew and Connie's honeymoon. They, for my own devices and my own invitation that came from Dan, actually through Janice, thank you, and through uh, Ben from Melbourne,
Ickford.
who, yeah, Ben Bickford, known Ben for many
No,
years.
Ben. Ah,
Yeah, and so then introduced him to Connie and Andrew, who became a good right arm for yeah, for travel and for facilitating their ease and flow in Australia. And he got the opportunity to really be, he was so excited, so honored, so blessed to be part of the whole Mungo Man 50-year celebration that was happening. So, yeah, it was definitely a win-win for everyone. So I'm here in Vancouver, Canada, Greater Vancouver, and my work is inner resonance technologies, in which I help to people to activate their own selves into that next level of their potential. And it happens in a very simple and easeful way. My book is Your Magical Evolutionary Code Unleashed, the science of inner resonance. So it's all within each of us. So I just finished rewatching Connie and Andrew's panel for the Humanities team in Global Oneness Week with Greg Campbell, Jude Currivan, Brother Phil. Actually, Phil lives down the road from me. He's within walking distance from where I live here in White Rock, which is part of Greater Vancouver. And so that gives a context also. So, yes, here I am. So grateful to be part of the dreaming and invited in. So, thank you so much, Connie. And I'm grateful to be, here with a discussion of that wonderful panel. And I just took a chance, as I said, and I was just watching it once again in the last hour to refresh myself. So, it was really, yeah, looking forward to talking about it.
Well, your work so aligns with the theme of the panel. Everyone spoke to that essence of accessing our inner selves, the cosmic, our connection to bigger realities. So you're just a perfect part of this conversation, and so we're happy to have. Hi, Greg.
Hello, Greg.
There he is.
Hi,
Hey,
Greg.
hey, Greg.
hi, Greg.
Can I just respond to Maureen? Maureen, thank you so much because, yeah, it sounds like you know most people here. Um, and you and I haven't met, and Dad. So meeting the dreaming was this little cohort was really inspired by Connie to continue the dialogue outside of Australia. And I mean, I've spent most of my adult life exploring different states of consciousness and what that means and trying to understand what being in a
meet
dreaming
somehow in the
space
middle. So
actually uh, might mean. In the last few years, I've been working
Janice, mute yourself, please. Janice, mute
with the deep
yourself.
time, community. So yeah, I just got leading into Dad here, who has obviously inspired so much of some of my exploration. But yeah, I've seen a bit of your work in the group and Ben and posts and your trip that you had in Jerusalem, was it, or just recently where you had a
Ibiza. Ibiza. After Australia. The reason I only could do 2 months in Australia is that I had to come back for a few days before I was booked to go to Ibiza for the Holo movement and saw Ben again there in person, which was great, and many other heart friends and community, and that's where I had a heart attack and healed very rapidly from that with all the love and healing prayers. So yeah, so that's I'm grateful, very grateful.
So
Yes,
Greg, this
and
is Maureen Edwardson. That Greg, you haven't met Maureen, and
Greg Campbell.
Greg Campbell,
yes.
and
And I want to be I am planning to come back to Australia. As I was saying, Greg, I was there at the same time, overlapping, with Connie and Andrew, but I didn't get up to Mungo Lake or Melbourne for the Mungo Man and Mungo Lady celebrations. And so I miss meeting you. So there's so many reasons to come back to Australia, and I do have that strong intention for this year. So we'll see how that unfolds. And
Well,
in the meantime, oh, and here's Joan. So I
and
know Joan.
Yes, John.
it's
And
lovely
Maureen-
to meet you, Maureen. Great.
Maureen's work has to do with getting to that place at the
Yeah,
bottom of
yeah.
everything.
I had a look at the description of her book. Wonderful. It's excellent.
Oh,
Yeah.
excellent. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, and as Rita and I just came to the, bottom line conclusion in the last hour, basically what IRT allows each person to do from the superconscious self is to, like Rumi said, don't seek for love, seek to remove all the barriers to love. So it clears all of the clutter, all of the old in the field that acts out, and no longer relevant or necessary. And it's very effortless, it's very simple, it's very fast. So it's a fast track. That's where, I do a lot of work with Connie and Andrew. We're great old buddies and collaborators, and I help to clear the track, to the new paradigm of the conscious loving universe.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, everyone here is onto it, There's not a
right.
single person here who's not onto it. We all know that basically that the whole universe is love, is sacred, every aspect of it at all levels and scales. That's the bottom line. It's expressed in a million different ways in thousands of different cultures. It's been known from day one. It is still known. It'll never be forgotten, even though we might be in darker times where it's more heavily covered up and buried under layers of stuff, but it's always there. And it's there 24/7. It's there whether we're alive in a human body or not in a human body. It's just a way of, knowing that to be true is the path. And when we know it to be true, what do? You try to somehow pass on to those to come the nature of the path, of the way, of what it's about, of what's there, and everyone here is doing that in their own way, and many other people on the planet too, So there we have the light shining bright. It's wonderful.
And can I
Yeah.
say something?
And I
I'm
love
sorry
that
I
you-
was late, but I got immersed in an email that came in this morning from Jim. And, and I got right into it, then totally forgot I'd gone through 9:30 and it was suddenly 20 to 10. So, yeah, I'll get back to you on the weekend on that, Jim. Yeah.
So, Greg, I was just sharing that I was I just reviewed, I saw the panel of the global oneness that we're here to talk about. And I just reviewed it just before I came on this call. And I just wanted to say how much I appreciated and resonate with what you shared, very much so. And I just wanted to personally thank you because I've never had a chance to meet you before. So thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. Very sweet.
And we welcome Joan. Thank you, Joan, for coming. It's great to have you here.
And thank you, Jim, for being here
And
from
Jim
the
for
start.
being here. So what we'd like to do is have Jim share with us so that he doesn't have to spend the whole evening or morning with us. And so we'd love for him to come in and give his thoughts and feelings about the panel, as well as from the perspective of the Mungo folks. I think that's what he's interested in sharing. And Jenny, did you have something to say?
Yeah, Connie, I think Maureen and Greg, I think we started this when we first started the group. We created a few agreements together for this particular meeting. And Connie, I think if you're able to read them out, just help us drop into a slightly deeper energy before we start moving into who's sharing where. So if you maybe begin with that, Connie, and start some sort of process or structure here, I think it'll help us let what needs to emerge in this particular conversation come through a little bit.
Yeah, so our agreements were, I'll just read them out, to come from the intuitive feeling space before the thinking mind, to come from the heart, and to have reverence for all of life, which we all do, and a sensitivity and respect for each other as far as how long we talk and just making space for everyone. And then responsible for self, group energy, and allow for pauses. So we want to pause after people speak to just give it some time to come in, and just come from that space. And that's what the whole panel was about. It was to trigger emergent understandings. So that's what we would love to have people come forth with, because that's what I'm looking for. Why I suggested we have this what I like to call universal meeting the dreaming, because it is universal, and taking it to all of humanity in a universal way, from the dream time and from first law and from our hearts out into the world, in our actions, the alignment to it. So that's what I'd love to have come forth today is something emergent. That's why we're here, is to bring forth a new way of being, and by accessing the ground at the bottom of everything. So we're going to do a 2-minute check-in. Yes, Jenny?
Yeah, cool. Okay, great. Because you did mention Andrew was going to lead us in something as well.
Yeah. So we'll do a 2-minute check-in. Well, and so do you think Andrew should lead the thing before the check-in or after?
I think most of us have spoken, other than Janice and Rita, but just go with it. Let's do it now. I think we just need to come into resonance together in this deep space while we have Dad here as well. I think Andrew does that, Connie, and then go with where you want to go after that.
Okay. So Andrew's going to take us on a little journey into our hearts and into that intuitive space, and then we'll proceed.
All right, everybody. Thank you. This is a great honor to invite you to come on a bit of a journey. It's about 100,000-year journey, and it's not a one-way journey. It's a return trip. We bought a return ticket. So if we'll just close our eyes and just drop into our visionary imagination. One of the wonderful things of being a human is we can make stuff up. We can imagine that we're anywhere in the universe at any time. And we can agree to go along with a storyteller. And one of the most magical things, of course, is sitting around a campfire with grandfather, telling a story perhaps that we've heard 100 times before, but as kids, we can't wait to hear it again. So here's that story. Here we sit, this little group of humans, sitting, as some like to put it, on the ground at the bottom of everything. And the time that we have just left is 50,000 years approximately in our future. And we don't know anything about years, and we don't know anything about time travel. All we know is that we are here in this present moment, which is a very pleasant moment. This lake that we're sitting on the beach, by the edge of this lake, this is a warm, crystal clear lake full of fish. And the lake is surrounded by trees, and the climate is tropical or subtropical. It's very lush. The food is abundant. The wildlife is abundant. The sounds are, listen, can you hear them? We hear the magpies, and we hear the just the multiple sounds of the birds and the bees and the animals and the children splashing in the edge of the lake. And we simply sit here, closing our eyes as a group and imagining where we have come from. And perhaps we've been on a very, very long journey, perhaps for tens of thousands of years, perhaps from some other place entirely before we found ourselves a home here by the lake. And you could think of the lake as Mungo Lake, but Mungo is not the name of the lake. I don't know what the name is. Perhaps we don't do that. Do we need to have a name? Perhaps not. So we sit and we breathe. And we see deep in our inner beings, we see the creation of the mountains and the rivers and the forests and the oceans. And we remember the stories we've been told by our elders and our ancestors, and we share them with each other. And we simply sit and listen to the sounds. And we can open our eyes if we like, but our inner eyes, our interior eyes, and look at the ripples that the wind makes on the water, the sound of the wind in the trees, the aliveness of everything, and a sense of perhaps gratitude, a sense of just the joy of being together, the joy of hearing the sounds of our children, of knowing that there's food, of knowing that we're safe, that we are secure, knowing that the cycle of the seasons comes and goes, and there's always everything we need. It's just very beautiful and very peaceful. And then the grandfather sitting here by the fire starts to tell a story. And he tells this wild, in our future world, we might think of it as science fiction. But he's describing a future reality, 50,000 cycles of the sun in the future as we sit here around this beautiful tropical lake. And in his story, he's describing this very strange machine. And this machine has a screen on it. And that screen is divided up into little rectangles. And in those little rectangles, contained by those little rectangles, are these pictures of these people who don't really look like us. Our skins are very brown, and their skins are not nearly as brown, but they're obviously humans, and they exist in, he calls it the future. And he tells us it's 50,000 years in the future. And 50,000 years in the future, here we are on these screens, scattered all over the planet. It's quite mysterious. And there's no sign of the lake. There's no sound of the birds. There's simply the sound of this voice telling us where we are. As sort of a, what should we say, perhaps a guide or a shamanic fellow who can tell these wild and crazy, strange stories about people who exist on these little screens. So let's just stop, and having just returned from a 100,000-year journey, let's keep our eyes closed just for 30 seconds and breathe. Exhale completely. And inhale very, very gently. And exhale. And breathe back in very, very gently. And what we have brought back from that place 50,000 years ago is a sense of peace, a sense of life, a sense of love, a sense of security, a sense of knowing that all is well. And one last breath. And let it go. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And here we are. Thank you.
Sweet, sweet journey into our hearts and into that knowing and experiencing beyond time and space into our time here together. So we can welcome Dan. Hi, Dan. Welcome,
Yep.
welcome.
Hello,
Glad to
Dan.
have you here. So let's begin. We're going to do a little, everyone is, the floor is open to everyone speaking for like 2 minutes to share something that's come into their lives or some feedback on last week's gathering together with Gubble and Dan and the rest of us. So please come and speak for 2 minutes, and we're going to pause afterwards. And there's not to be cross talk. You know, everyone just can share their thoughts and then move on to the next person. And but first of all, I'd love for Jim to share from his heart and his knowing, his perceptions of our panel, this panel, the frequency of sacredness and oneness alignment, how it came into his awareness and through the Mungo perceptions, perhaps.
Well, thank you, Connie. It's a privilege to be sharing this with you. I took the time to sit with your panel last week or a few days ago. The four or five of you. There was so much presented there. I was only able to take short snippets of what you all said. I won't try and summarize it here because it was really quite a complex agenda with you, with Andrew, Greg, and that lady from the science, or Julie, the cosmologist, Andrew, and sort of brother Phil. Amazing stories, amazing synchronicity of the way you pulled things together. And as I said, I shan't really comment in detail because there was too much said there for me to take in. But after that contemplation by Andrew, that sort of takes me away in my communication with that man sitting on the mud on the beach of the lake, Mungo man, with whom I have developed a sense of close connection. And I suppose that came up in your readings last week of your experience with the Kalahari and the continuity of that consciousness for many, many thousands of years. I take the approximate time of modern humans between 200 and 300,000 years ago, when the journey came out of Africa. To those who went to the east, joined with the Denisovans and arrived in Australia. They arrived in a land without people, a land that it's hard to envisage today, that people had been there. I say they've been there for me, at least 100,000 years. And the story of the Mungo people, it is their amazing connection, their use of symbolism in the community that dug the grave in the celebration of the passage of life from life to death. That passage was celebrated in an extraordinary ritual. The importing of ochre. There's no ochre for certainly over 100 kilometres away. In those days, it was probably traded 40,000 years ago. And there, beside the grave, the remnants of a large fire. The large fire, which is, as today, the symbol of cleansing in the tradition of present-day Aboriginal descendants. So here we find 40, 50,000 years ago, those people had that symbolic connection with the land. It was their connection to country. They had a deep sense of not just the symbolism, but the meaning of their connection to the world around them. And that is I think as Andrew and Greg have stressed, is the distillation, if you like, of the mind relationships with the environment, that process that began with modern humans about 200, 300,000 years ago. A new process that, as that elegance of mind and connection with matter, the planet was at that moment was changed. Since that time, there has been an explosion of people, explosion of mind across the planet, the explosion that the Teilhard calls the noogenesis. And it's that noogenesis that was here alive and well 40, 50,000 years ago in the expression of the Mungo people. To find that reality is now being, as it were, continued in the lives of their descendants, the Aboriginal people, with their connection to country, with their symbolic and deep sense of dreaming, which is beyond my understanding, but it is there in documented expression and in the emotional attraction, not just emotional, but a meaningful identity with the land and the animals, the rocks, from which life and from which we all come. To find that conjunction here in Australia from 40,000 years to present day is a mind-boggling experience. It's beyond my capacity to really understand the implications of those events. Sadly, those events are not ritually or not honoured in due process in Australia today. They have implications around the world. Indigenous people elsewhere can look at what happened with the Mungo people, with that extraordinary expression of their connection to country 40,000 years ago. So it's in that sense that today we are confronted with so much we don't understand. And in that, I come to the Mungo people as a scientist in my search for the evidence in Australia of ice age climatic change. We don't have any large ice sheets or glaciers as Connie and Andrew, others have in the northern hemisphere. Up there in Canada, the ice was there up till 10,000 years ago. So in Australia, we have an entirely different expression of ice age environments. And then to find in the midst of that ice age cycle, which lasted the last 100,000 years, in the midst of that, the emergence of these people who lived in the middle of that cycle, who adjusted to the changes in climate, and they probably, in their own quiet way, had an effect on the landscape, on the lakes, and in a moderate way, they were interacting and perhaps even having a small effect on climate. So those events are now demonstrated by by science. Science has an evolution of mind quite different from the indigenous dreaming. And it's those differences that have caused so much misunderstanding between us. Those differences we seek to bridge, use as a bridge today between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. The science itself, seen by many people as nature in service of man, nature that we dig up and sell. Their economic reliance upon nature is quite entirely different from the concept of living with and learning from nature. So that is the challenge we face. It is not just ironical, but with some degree of paradox, that it was the expression of the science technology that brought the reality of the Mungo people to our consciousness. It was the expression of physics, of chemistry, and the detailed analyses of archaeology that have now demonstrated to the world the unique age and the environmental context within which the Mungo people lived, and within which they were intimately connected and in a spiritual way displayed that ritual in the transition of life to death. So that, in a way, opens another chapter. The science itself, which most people see as a secular, the age of reason, that it is reason alone, not intuition that matters. That is entirely contrary to the way that Indigenous people have lived and the way that we all need to live. So that the science itself now be remarked by more and more people, acknowledged as having a deep sense of spiritual dynamic. It's all very well for science to weigh, to measure, and in astronomy to create the magic story of the Big Bang. We have that story. We have many of the details scientifically demonstrated, but behind the details, there's the other side of the coin, the sheer wonder of it all. We don't understand the why, the how, all of these things happened. The reality is, however, they happened in unity, in continuity, and they have never been interrupted. And we are, as Andrew said, the outcome of that process today. We are part of that entire unity of operation, of creation. It is science, in a sense, that has opened that window of opportunity to us. Science, which in many people is seen as non-spiritual. On the contrary, the whole sense of wonder, that's demonstrated and exposed by the scientific stories, but it cannot be explained by them. That requires that contemplative contemplation that Andrew has so beautifully brought to our attention this morning. And it is that contemplative phase, that contemplative challenge that we seek to bring to our colleagues elsewhere in the world today. And it is there's a point here, I'll just divert for a moment. In the very nature of creation and the scientific stories, which is Teilhard has demonstrated, or in his noosphere, the continuity in evolution of the development of mind, of the central nervous system, from the earliest microbes through the birds, the animals that preceded the arrival of our humanity. There was a constant increase in the power of mind, the power to think, the consciousness. That is a remarkable change between what happens in the rest of the world. Energies wind up a clock, it dies down. The sun is dying. The planet itself will have limited life in the cosmology agenda. Mind, on the other hand, is the extraordinary arrival of a new sense of knowing, a sense that connects us all with the Creator. The other point I would make, in that creative story, there's a remarkable coincidence of a triangular relationship of things. The magic of opposites, the black, the white, the sun, the light, the dark, and in nature, from the very fundamental from protons joins electrons, we develop a new chemical product. Oxygen, hydrogen loves oxygen. Hydrogen bonds with oxygen, and we get water. From the two opposites, we get a third outcome. This is most dramatically expressed in the sexual relationships in nature. From male, female, we get the great products of offspring, of children. From 1 to 2, we generate the third. And this is a fundamental process in the natural system. To me, it is the process of inbuilt energy, the life of a spiritual connection between atoms, a spiritual connection between the sun and the planet, a spiritual connection between man and woman. That is the spirit energy which I believe drives the fundamental part of our being. I'd qualify now that Andrew made a slight distinction, not slight, but a distinction that made sense to me in the use of that term love. Love is a compounded term, L-O-V-E. It is used in the public way. It has been demeaned. Love is commercialized. That's not the sort of love we're talking about. We're talking about the love between atoms, between a proton and an electron. In that sense, it's energy we're talking about. Energy is the cosmologic form of love. And it is, I find the constant use of love without qualification sometimes becomes more a distraction than a meaning. So I think, Connie, I've been waffling on now for quite a long time. On that note, and that note of the triangular nature of nature, a triangular dynamic that was at the basis of our indigenous people and is expressed in their wonderful and, to me, mysterious sense of dreaming. That is our problem now, is to translate the differences between the scientific analysis and the dreaming analysis, which comes through on a dynamic and timescale quite different from my scientific evolution. So in that sense, I think that is our challenge, is to analyze the differences between those two ways of interpreting nature and to bring those differences into sharper focus and to try to relate the meaning and the understanding of those differences in our efforts today. Connie, that's enough for me.
Well, thank you, Jim, for bringing your perspective. That's what I was hoping you would do.
That was precious, Jim.
That was precious, and you touched on everything that we touched on in the panel from different perspectives, from Jude Currivan, who was a cosmologist and a physicist and had visions as a child. Her lifetime has been through those experiences. And Chief Phil Lane, who brought so much from the Native American perspective and the scientific. If everyone who had listened closely to Phil Lane, he was very scientific. So that's what I was hoping when I put this panel together, was to bring those two together, that mystical knowing of the indigenous people with the science. So thank you, Jim, for doing that, and in your way. And so let's proceed and have each person come on and share their insights, their knowing, their perspectives.
And try to keep it to 2 minutes. That way we'll be able to get through all of this.
And then we can have discussion at the end, but let's
Jim, that was wonderful, and you were not restricted at all in time, so that was perfect.
Yeah.
And I hope it was recorded. Jenny, was it recorded?
Yes.
That is totally wonderful. I'm just sitting here, I can't wait to listen again so I can actually grok it all.
So we can pause for a minute, for a couple of seconds,
And we'll
and
pause
then
between-
somebody speak up and bring your insights. And
hello, Shayla.
Welcome, Shayla.
Dan has his hand up.
And there's
Yeah, I thought I'd maybe build on what Jim has just shared as a core in terms of bridging the science and dreaming. Maybe I'd look at maybe 3 words that can help us in that journey. And it's Tesla's stuff. It's energy, vibration, and frequency. Those 3 things to be perceived beyond the scientific mind, into sensing the connection with those elements at a feeling level, will help bridge the scientific mind and the right side of the brain to come together, because the senses need a whole elements of truth, seeing, hearing, and feeling. We need to feel, and that connection to the creator can be felt. And the energy, vibration, and frequency can be attuned in a dreaming, and what we can do in a metaphysical sense. And metaphysical was the word they Greeks used to call philosophy, is beyond the physical, metaphysics. And they got that from the Egyptians, and the Egyptians got it from here. So each culture's picked up pieces, but it traces back to here. So, and the dreaming stories and the way they should, you'll be able to reference, oh, we got that, that means that over here. It's referenced in the Bible here. It's referenced in mathematics here. It's like, yes, they've already been here. They've been in the quantum field. They've just been waiting for us to be at a certain resonance. And energy, vibration, and frequency creates resonance. When we can be resonating with them, then we can be perceiving into those deeper stories that you spoke of, Jim, of the meaning behind the why, the how. They have those keys and parts of that story. And I say parts of that story because there's other parts to complement it. And one way it was described to me was, you can study history, all the history, everything that's been written, but only the conquerors, they wrote the history. And they said, have you heard her story? And I'm like, oh, the other half of the story that we haven't heard. And science has brought us up to this point to create an opening in our mind to perceive deeper wisdom and how it can be shared. So there's my little segue, I thought, just to link off, Jim, in terms of what we are now shaping in the narrative with Gubble, and Gubble shares his love to everybody. He's on walkabout at the moment. We're sort of leading up to next weekend. This weekend, we're actually going on to the ancient ceremonial grounds and bringing the family back home. And Tracey, you've been invited up by the family today to come and join us. So I'm up here picking up Tracey at Trinity Beach here in North Queensland. I'm actually on the beach and it's fantastic. So thanks, Tracey, for bringing me to such an amazing place. And yeah, so we're going to continue the journey with Tracey this week, and she's going to get an opening into some of these deeper connections into the story of the way forward. Gubble has big announcements and big aspects in it's the way of being and coming into that resonance. We're going to start sharing that opening of that secret trove that we've been waiting for. Gubble said he's ready to really start sharing that. And so we'll be catching up over this weekend to talk much more about what 2025 and also the lead up to the solstice. We're looking at, I think, really bringing in that resonance of the oneness streaming and giving Gubble a platform to actually talk about that being, and so that we can then come back to that conversation, Jim. I'm happy for that to be really incorporated within the theme of what Gubble can share on the 21st, and how this panel and this group is actually helping to form the narrative and the storytelling of where we're up to and our co-creation in that oneness dreaming. As Gubble sings us into a new dreaming, he wants to have our global family. It can't happen without that. The one and that's what's so beautiful in this time. We're building to something very special. It feels like it's really, we can't stop smiling. Really, it's just all this good stuff and feeling and energy that's coming with it. And we're talking about, you can't do this without a high resonance and vibration when you talk of dark to light. And that lightness is, light particles in our being. The more light particles we have in our body, it means that the closer they are together and they can vibrate at a higher rate together. So the more light that we have, the more our vibration increases because of the light particles. So the science and the spirituality is coming together like a spiral up. It's just reconfirming and showing deeper truths that have been observed in nature, and then giving the reasoning rationale and how the dreaming integrates into this. It's the brings the sentientness of nature is through the dreaming it can be perceived. Because in some ways we have to shut off the mind beyond seeing the way in which we've been told the world has been since a child. And when we close our eyes, we get to imagine a potential. But then once we've done that, the tribe said, you're close. Now open your eyes, because it's happening live and direct in front of you. And that's where it's like nature is that very essence. So the meditation for me was a pathway to silence the mind, to create an opening of more, rather than mindful examination. It was about to create a heartful examination, and that dropping into that frequency raises the vibration of then being able to perceive into higher dimensional connection to things that are there, rather than having a very small. And Gubble sort of talks about it. We're in an Aladdin lamp. We don't even know where we can't even see out because we're frosted. And so in a way, we've got to step beyond the trauma and the frosting of our conditioning to be able to realize that we are more than just that. And it's an awakening that he has, I think, an ability to really sing that he's got such strength to be soft, and that softness and the courage to be vulnerable in the heart is the warrior. And these guys are strong, but they are vulnerable and open, and they feel so deeply. They don't ignore their feelings, they feel them. And that's why it can be so intense for them, because they feel it so deeply. They feel when that mother is being raped, and and they stand. They won't give up, because they feel it too deeply. It runs so deeply into their veins, and it is a 24/7 thing. During the day we can do so much, but in the night, we can be so powerful.
Thank you, Dan. Wow, what a sharing.
Jim and then
What a
Dan,
blessing.
this is precious.
What a
Wow.
blessing.
Thank
Okay.
you, Dan.
We'll have a little pause, and then the next person, please speak up.
Just breathe.
Let's have a woman share.
I just wanted to weave a comment from the panel. and that is from Greg. And I just want to thank Dan for bringing this to mind because what I remember Greg saying in that panel discussion was that your teacher, Greg, it was really hard, hard like steel, but soft like a marshmallow. And so I just wanted to echo those words and weave in the information that's present here in our dreaming. And perhaps that is, the way forward, being hard as steel and soft as a marshmallow, whatever that means to each of us, to be strong and yet soft simultaneously.
Thanks, Maureen. I echoing you and Dad and Dan. Dad referencing the opposites, the soft and hard, and out of the duality, a third energy is created. And I got excited, Dan, because guess where you are? You're on Trinity Beach. And
Yes.
we're talking about Dad. That was, I haven't heard you talk so clearly about that, the Trinity and that incredible, and it comes back to the panel and some of the things that stood out to me on the panel was, Greg, when you were talking about country and people needing to go back to country just to reconnect or defrag or get out of the mind, as you mentioned, Dan. And then Chief Phil said, well, yes, that's, his father said, in the end, it's actually, it all comes back to the heart and the soul and the body mind, maybe the Trinity and the body. But in this dialogue we've just had and listening to Dad in so much of that, it's helping me understand that it's not just in the heart. I don't feel it's just in the heart and the body. It is the country. It is the trees. It is, like you said, the lantern that's all, you want to say our lenses are cleared, Dan. It's the whole shebang. And while I might my radar, my compass might be my own heart and energy, it's this much bigger reality that is where the Indigenous are functioning in. And the dreaming's inside of all of that. And so I don't even know where to go with any of that, but it's just helping tease it open a little bit more. And Greg, I was so moved when you mentioned that. Will just very finish with this. I did a lot of dream work. When I was 21, I wanted to go to dream school. So dreaming has been my path for a long time. And I went through a lot of different things. I had a dream, I actually had my head split open, and inside of it was a blue pearl. And I never understood it at all. And then Greg mentioned it in your panel, Connie. Or you mentioned a blue pearl, and I'm like, look where I am now, 60 years later after my dream school passion at 21, 40 years later. A lot of my work is understanding how the world and how my body and my resonance is interconnected with this cosmic story, and how do we hold that, understand it externally and hold it like that blue pearl internally. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So thank you, everybody. Just so much gratitude and the love word, Dad, out to you all for having this conversation and turning up. Thank you, Connie and Andrew, as well, for bringing this forward.
May I add to that, Jenny, that this morning I was talking to someone about when I lived on Hayman Island in the Whitsundays, years and years ago, and my favourite spot, I'm going goosebumpy, was Blue Pearl Bay. And the walk there was a walk you had to be very careful doing, and at the table this morning was a woman who'd walked somewhere and it fell off the walk. And so it's the resonance in all of this today. I'm also at Trinity Beach. And I just think I haven't got a lot to say, except one thing. As an astrologer, learning about Hermes from some great teachers, myself and Jenny had too, learning about the symbolism of Hermes, who can go between the worlds. And he's, I just made some notes to myself as to remind me what a trickster Hermes, she is. This is one of the energies that can go from the underworld to the overworld. And in mythology, and I'm speaking Greek mythology now, which is also connected to Roman, and it doesn't really matter what. It is, how do we bring the two together and birth the third? And so I find that Hermes, I'm a big writer of, people talk, I write. That's Hermes. And by writing, it does more than I've ever understood until now, being in meeting the dreaming and things. It goes down my arm, through my bones, and I don't even look at my notes again. I'm doing the same I've always done. There's mountains of notes skidded by the dog and the cat, and I never really look back at them. But, I'm learning. It went in by writing. It earthed it. It grounded it. It used my mind. It used my table and chair, and I'm just, from being here, beginning to understand I want to cry, what the depth of that is for me. And I don't know if I'll continue writing in the same way in my future as a person. I really don't know what's happening, but I'm very open-minded, and I just ask that I sit at the bottom, and stay grounded. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Jen, and everyone.
I might say a few little things. Very impressive, Jim. You seem to be getting more and more articulate as you get older. It was an excellent presentation. Really good. The Trinity, very interesting. The triangle, very important symbol of creation. And the question is, what brings the opposites together? And the answer, which is evident throughout the natural world, is the desire to create and continue that. So the desire for continuance, for creation. That power or energy to create is what brings the opposites together. What divides the opposites and keeps them apart is not worthy of contemplation. So the resolution of the current situation with the Mungo Lady and Mungo Man is to bring the opposites together by the desire to create, to enable the continuity of all life. So the appearance of Mungo Man and Mungo Lady is evidently for that purpose. It's very simple, actually. So those who are having trouble finding a way forward will almost certainly agree together on the need to give expression to why Mungo Lady and Mungo Man appeared. The reason is very clear. It's the creation of new life. It's regeneration. It's moving forward in ways that are fair and equitable and sustainable. The system in action. So I believe that's achievable, before February or by February next year. Yeah. Dan's point of view is not with us now, I see, is very very much reflects traditional Aboriginal appreciation, in my humble opinion. The mind is a powerful weapon, extremely powerful tool. Many Aboriginal people today have brilliant intellects, have developed, brilliant intellects. They always had brilliant intellects, but we can see it in action in our society today. Their intellectual capacity has never been less than any other beings on this planet. Everyone has great intellectual capacity. Some are able to access it, like Jim, much more than others like myself. But everyone has that capacity. But beyond that, we're all essentially of the spirit. We have a material body, but we're not material beings. We're of the spirit inhabiting a material body. And that spiritual aspect of reality is not in the space-time bubble. The space-time bubble and everything, all the forms and phenomena exist within it, within the spirit, Aboriginal world, within the dreaming. The dreaming is just it's a Western word, not actually an Aboriginal word at all in its translation. It's everything is of the spirit. Although all this is vibrating as the spirits who have created and are holding, sustaining, and dissolving form. Yeah, that's simple as that. That's dreaming. So when we experience that, typically on country, but not necessarily, you could be in Guantanamo Bay too and experience it. But typically on country, when we experience that, we access and come into contact with the intelligence of the entire system. It's what Lulu, the old man, called true feeling. True feeling. True feeling never lies, it never deceives, it never misinforms. It's always right on the mark. And evolved beings like the traditional Aboriginal people I knew, and no doubt many others all over the planet, are sitting in that space. They're actually not, I am accessing this. They are in that space. So it's coming through them. It's always coming through them. So they have true feeling. They're fully connected with everything at all levels and scales. And that ultimately is, I believe, why we are fortunate enough to have a human body. We have the opportunity to enter into that space and know who we really are and the nature of reality. I think Jim is doing incredible work. He's showing great courage and great empathy, great forbearance and patience and compassion. Very compassionate, Jim. And very blessed that you're still here on the planet and that we have these wonderful occasions to be able to interact with you. It's a beautiful feeling. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
This whole conversation reminds me, I'm brought back to a one-on-one teaching, a Zoomerang I had with Uncle Lewis at the Rocky River. He had introduced me. We had several conversations with Rocky River, which is where he lives. And he was talking to me about letting the ending, since there is no time, let the ending come fold back into the beginning. And I hope I'm saying it right. Yurubal Gully Miringingi. It means turning one's spirit around. Turn around to the past, to your ancestral knowledge, and walk back in with proper understanding into the future. And I think that says it all. Yurabogali Mirangingi. It's much bigger than those sentences, but it's beyond time and space. So it embodies Maureen's, walk into the quantum future that we all look to, that we want to create, but you can't do it in proper way till you bring the past back with you, turning one's spirit around. So.
Janice, have you finished?
I'm just whispering. Yeah, yeah.
It's been fascinating catching up with everybody today. A couple of things Jim said, and I've just broken them down briefly because between atoms is the energy, and energy is the cosmic form of love. It must be, because Jim and I are so opposite. I'm talking personally now, that I've often wondered why we're still able to be together and be still in harmony most of the time. And I think it is just a wonderful cosmic energy, to repeat the word, that keeps us pushing each other together to do common good, so to speak. And I've often thought it'd be rather nice just to have someone similar to me. We just go do the things I like. But that hasn't been the case. And so I've been pushed into a different shape. But I'm extremely grateful for that, because I'm sure a more grounded person. And we're still here after 65 years together. The other thing that's happened to me this week, and to us family, is Anne Paulina visit us here in Melbourne. And when we're talking about the past and the future and all what people said today, I just felt so connected, like you people do with Anne. She is just such a special human being. And I felt, she's Indigenous and I'm not. We were just melted into a feeling of we've been together before, and that we were able to continue a journey into the future, really understanding that the future is important and that there is a future. I'm not sure I'm articulating that terribly well, but I just felt I'm on a journey with her, and we all are, and I felt we were fortunate to have the moment to meet her and to share what's going to be a wonderful journey forward for Indigenous people and all humans, hopefully. Thank you. That's my reflection.
That's wonderful, Joan. I'll be seeing Anne next week in Broome, and I will chat with her about February next year. Very much hope she will come. I think she wants to come to that event, and there are cultural sensitivities, protocols surrounding speaking as an Indigenous person speaking for someone else's country. But I think there's a way through that with the World Heritage aspect of Lake Bunga. So very, very happy if she's there. It would be tremendous. She is I said to her said to you guys recently, she's very special. And she was there and she heard that and she said, no, I'm not special. Of course, I said, well, you have a special purpose. But she's like you, Joan. She's so much love in her heart, and very intelligent and aware, sees through all the human foibles pretty quickly, can see through people fast, as many women can, much more so than men in our culture, in our society. But she's very much taken by country. The rainbow serpent, Yungarugu in their world, is really that energy, the universal creative power, right, of God. That energy is flowing through her. It's like a jet stream. And she's doing an enormous amount of work. She's carrying the workload of at least 5 people, and traveling nonstop. And she's in her late 60s, and she's really feeling it physically and so on, the stress, the pressure, the demands, and so on. And more energy is pouring into her, doing even more. And it's like that. Once we let go, and just be with that, it takes us over and runs us. And it runs us all the way to the edge of the cliff. It stretches us right out as far as possible and holds us there, and then bingo, breakthrough. It's an incredible process, and it's been going on since I think the first people walked this earth, and it'll never stop. So yeah, wonderful to come across and have those people in your life, and it doesn't matter who. It can be black, white, yellow, pink. Yeah, totally irrelevant. Man, woman, 3 legs, 2 legs, no legs, whatever. Totally irrelevant. It's just that energy, that joy. It's a lot of joy, a lot of fun, a lot of sort of lightness of being in the whole thing, and very quick moving. Very. When she and I are together, we are talking to each other all the time, over each other all the time, non-stop, completely understanding that whole weird dynamic that's going on, and we just don't, neither of us stop to give way to the other. We just go for it. It's just so delightful,
Greg, it's all driven by love. Love is spirituality.
Yeah.
Jim said that.
Yeah.
We're speaking over the top of each other. Can I do that, Greg? I just want to say thank you, Dan, what you're doing. I don't know if you're doing it purposely, but you're scanning the beach there. And as you're doing that, I just wanted to mention I lived about 5 Ks up the road from there, and I actually lived in a humpy for 6 months. So 4 poles and a roof in the forest. And, you're talking about country, you're talking about that energy. I mean, I went there because I had my own woundedness, and I went and I just stayed in that back of that rainforest. Tracey, I'll send you a photo. But literally, I was there for 6 months, and I remember sitting there thinking this is one of the happiest times I've had. And so just that country thing, just being in that open space 24/7, it's quite extraordinary. And it's so healing and so magical, and from that I came back to Melbourne and started a community cafe that went off for 5 years and did all sorts of amazing things. Just this energy poured through me. So it's really interesting, isn't it? And I just want to mention one thing. We had a lot of joy this week. Mum and Dad and Anne and extraordinary. But I also had a party with my son's 30th birthday, and most of my family were there. Like, that's 8 people, 20, there's 40 people. There was no fights, there was no blue. It was just beautiful. It was a really lovely, special moment. So I just want to share that with you.
It was. Good.
Wonderful, wonderful. Shayla, would you like to share a little something?
Thank you. It is so wonderful to be in this community. I'm so glad I got on here tonight, because it is rich and full to listen to what everybody is saying. And it feels really in line with what's been showing up in life, and this sort of teasing of Hermes Trismegistus, and what is real and what is coming, and what structure will hold and what will fall away. And I keep seeing this image in all of these talks that have been coming up with these similar themes, and opposites being such a big part of it. And I keep feeling like there's some sort of new direction from all of the expansion, like the one direction that hasn't quite happened yet. And I feel like that direction is in, like that we've done all of the forward, backward, sideways, diagonal, through, against, all of the other ways. And something's happening within. And it just, there's this becoming where you add your being to the arrival, be, come. And it just is something very visceral in that. Like more than visceral, it's like you become your cells and you feel how your cells are the same as the cells in the air and the cells in the water. And it's like you burst into stars. And I feel like the mind is a springboard for that. So like there's all this form to studying these hermetic sciences and all these ways we get to talk around them, but not directly on them. And somehow we get to let go and just burst in. So that's what I'm feeling. And I'm so giddy to see Dan Atkins, to see Greg again, to see the bowlers, to see all of you. It's just, this is amazing. To see Maureen, haven't seen you for a while too.
Any chance you'd like to sing us a song?
Sure.
With a beautiful song from Shayla.
Yeah,
That would be beautiful. I would love that.
Sure. Yeah, just okay. For her stability, I think about the part of me that's on the ground. And for her levity, I think about the part of me that's in the air. For her stability, I think about the part of me that's on the ground. And for her levity, I think about the part of me that's in the air. Oh, gravity, I thank thee. Oh, spirituality, I thank thee. 'Cause we are physical and formless, yes. And our hearts are so enormous, yes. Oh, we are physical and formless, yes. And our hearts are so enormous, yes. Yes.
They're fantastic, Shayla. They're absolutely wonderful. Yeah, have you got do you have the tune for that? Like the guitar?
Yeah, so far just rhythm, just drums for that one.
So you just expressed our panel,
There you are.
the essence of the panel, right there in that song. Really, I mean, you touched every piece that everyone touched on in that hour of our time together in the panel. And thank you, Shayla, for that synopsis.
Yeah.
So would anyone else like to share? Again, everyone's spoken, so we've honored everyone. And so if anyone would like to share again, that would be wonderful. Or
Well,
we can close with that song.
I feel Shayla should definitely have musical accompaniment for that song. I don't know, is it a guitar or something else? But that is really, it's about a powerful song.
Thank you.
It would be very good, Jim, to play it in February at the final celebrations. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it made
No,
me
that's the real deal. That's a ripper, Shayla.
Yeah, it
Coming
made
out of
me
that
get up and
space.
dance, Greg.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I see you dancing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
I mean, Dan would pick it up too. He would pick that up.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. So sweet.
Could I just ask Dan about you talked about his history and then you talked about history. Is that happening? Do you think? I hope so. The new energy, female energy rising, is that part of what
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Joan, for adding into that. It's when you've got the Roman was the patriarchal side of the law. They left the matriarchal side behind and became a very patriarchal system. And the tribe hold the original system where both the patriarchal and the matriarchal were in balance. And they have a word for that called matristic law. And so natural law is made up of matristic law of balance of patriarchal and matriarchal. And so some of the changes that we're going to be seeing is in the matriarchal side, it's more about the preservation and the creation of nature and the ability to birth, the birthing process. And at the moment, what the masculine did was put all the lines in place. So you're like, there's the flower of life, there's the masculine, which draws all the rates, you get the geometry out. And then you've got the feminine version. When you color in, you get the other side to the knowledge. And so even within that, there's the two aspects. And so the patriarchal drawing the lines and all the roads are the song lines where the animals would trail. That was the trails that we followed. They've expanded to be the horse and cart and then became the road. That's the animal song lines. The shipping lanes, they're using all the currents and so forth. That's where the fish would travel. So what they're saying is they said there's going to be a technology shift. Prepare for that. So you're going to have to perceive into things you can't see now. But the borders, the fences are coming down. And then I see that already coming through when Phil Lane is presenting the ecosystem map. That's the migratory flow of the animals. That's the her story component to it. That's the deep secret knowledge that we're all connected. Stop cutting our leg off, cutting ourselves off. We've got to learn that our breath is an interconnected breath with all things. And that's coming back to the inner resonance, the feeling. Man, Shayla, you're talking there. You're talking the feeling. It's here, and keep going, keep singing. You know, it is that the two coming together. When you bring the patriarchal and matriarchal, it ain't the same of both. Something magical happens, and we're in that as above, so below process right now with Gubble and the family and ourselves with Sacred Earth. We're bringing the Sacred Earth and the Secret Earth together, and something else will emerge. And Gubble's saying that what's coming and what we'll do won't just change Australia. It won't just change the Earth. This is going to change the universe. And in terms of walking back to the ancients, Gubble's saying that that's what we're doing this weekend, is we're walking back to the ancients. We're engaging with those ancients and bringing it forward with that blessing of all. It can have to be all oneness, but we had to go back to the ancients to be able to bring it forward. So, and then we're all sharing in that. So this call, the timing of this and what we're feeling and the vibration of this time, it's time, you know, it's all of you, when the calling comes, that the time to all come together to celebrate and bring this together, because it is a co-creation. Each of us have a color, a vibration, a frequency, our resonance, which actually equals a color. Yeah. We got to find our own color and vibrate that color as bright as we can be. Yeah. Because that's what we're here to do. We got to be that color, not any other color. Not try and be someone we're not. We've got to find that color within. And that's what the oneness dreaming. We get to live our true expression of truth. And we get to know that our kids coming forward, well, they're here for that. You know, we're going to empower them, and we're going to have fun empowering the future leaders to care for this sacred earth. And that's what's bringing us all together now. And thank you for all the sharing. And Andrew and Connie, thank you so much. You know, your dedication to this, Greg and Joan and Jim, Jenny, you're all amazing. Maureen, Janice, and, you know, you're all an amazing family. So thank you so much for just turning up and keeping this dreaming alive and this dreaming story, and bridging this quantum, you know, and bringing the science. And because we are dreaming in sin, we have hold this dream. And when we do link back to the ancients, when we do understand the energy vibration frequency and we resonate with nature, we can align and we go together with nature. We're not leaving her behind. She ain't leaving us behind. We go together and we all go all colors together, but it's more than just us as humans. You know, that's what's so amazing. When you do get to really imbibe with the tribes, magic does happen. You know, you do connect to the spirit of the tree and you have a communication. But it had to be a certain resonance to perceive it and for it to and the way in which a tone of which it speaks through the dreaming, one little taste of that is the most sweetest nectar that I've ever tasted on the whole planet, my physical existence. It just can't compare to a sensory engagement experience that we get, and they're entering us in. We'll all get that opportunity to discover who we really are, and we'll all spiral into our own infinite potentiality at our own space and time, and sharing that magic with each other as we grow together. So thank you again. You know, really, really beautiful to share this space with you. And from Trinity Beach and Jim, you're absolutely on those. You bring two together and you create third. That's even a new form that couldn't be perceived by either two, and that's where we're up to. So bringing that patriarchal together, they do hold that ancient knowledge of, and it's very deep, it's very reverent, very respectful, and we're only beginning that gateway, but they're ready to open that door now. That they haven't done that before, and they're ready to open that door to us. They say, well, you're ready now. And Gubble has protocol approval to share a lot of this stuff. He's been designated, prepared all his life for this time, and he'll get very emotional through this period of his family coming together, because he feels that deeper than anyone I've ever met, of how the oneness and how we are one and how we are all connected. And he holds that space and his arms are open to bring all of that family together now. So it's beautiful to witness that unfolding. We're doing it on spirit time. We got in, the last instruction was that the ancestors said that we had to come and sit with them. We had to vibrate with them at their vibration, not bringing our vibration of what we are now. We have to actually attune ourselves. And so that's why going on country is our next step. And we're going to bring Tracey up on that. So exciting to have Tracey up here with us. And and sharing and bridging that feeling story to extend us all, because we're all part of that story, you know.
She's the messenger.
Yeah.
You have to bring it back to us, Trace.
Yeah.
Oh, Joan, I'd always do that for you. You've kept me in check for some time.
I will.
Tracey, I'm wondering, you might consider it whether you'd like to run our next group and to have a storytelling group of some sort.
Is that next year, Jen?
No, and the next one in 2 weeks. Our session this soon.
So what we'll do is talk, because if I make a commitment, I really hate breaking any commitments. So, and because I've got my mother.
It's Christmas Day.
And I've got the demented mother. I've got Mum. You know, I've got a situation that's a bit bigger than
We'll come back to it.
Let's come back to it.
I'm just wondering, Dad, do you want to say anything?
For me? No, you've said it. I've said too much already.
No, you haven't. You said perfect.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Dan, that what you just said about sitting with the ancestors, you explained it better than me. You're talking Yerbal, Gully, Mirangingi. That's what you are doing with Gubble and his family, is sitting at the bottom of everything with the ancestors and, cleaning everything up to work forward into a new future. So you're really, the opportunity for you to be there, Tracey, I think is extraordinary.
And I may share on Christmas Day. It may be, for me, that's a pagan day anyway. And there's only me and Mum left and the animals. So I'll just check in on that, Jen, and I might be honoured to do that. Yes.
I probably wasn't trying to suggest Christmas Day. Maybe do we want to bring it forward? Otherwise, we're leaving it for a month. But we can have that conversation when we're finished.
And I'll check in with Gubble. I'll check in over what I'm doing with Dan and Gubble, if that's the right thing. I just don't know at the minute. Yeah.
Are you
What-
suggesting a quick one next week, just to catch up with what's happening with Tracey, and then wait another month after that?
there
So
may
have we finished? I mean, have we finished this
Okay.
phase? We're now getting into logistics. Have we finished this phase?
I would just like to say something in conclusion, and my heart is so full to be present with each and all of you, most of whom, many of you I've met in person, and I just feel the essence of all of our interweaving and dreaming as we are collectively sitting in the essence of the bottom of everything. And that's what I am feeling. And I just wanted to express that gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen.
And I just want to say that Dan mentioned that Goebbels said we're going to not change just our world, the earth, we're going to change all of the universe. And that's my understanding, that all of creation is awaiting the love in the human heart, us opening our hearts and aligning with our hearts, and that's going to change everything. And this has been a process of coming to that place that's on the ground at the bottom of everything, and that bringing the science into the indigenous, with the indigenous, and into that knowing that we are the universe, that the native people have been carrying for us, that connectivity to that sacredness and oneness of all of creations through that frequency, that vibration of sacred. I mean, just feel it, sacred. When we shift into that sacredness, that reverence for all of life, the human heart is just going to flap open and everything's going to change. And thank you, everyone, for bringing your piece to this process. And so that's what I've got to say in conclusion.
Yeah, and I would just say this has been, for me, the most spectacular of these meetings. Jim, your sharing there was profoundly moving. And everybody else has just, the whole thing has just notched up a few thousand degrees. So that's my thought.
And I think it has to do with us following our protocols, and we could discuss these protocols once we finish this phase, because everyone came from their heart. Everyone honored everyone else. Everyone got to speak without crosstalk, just to share from their hearts. And that just notches everything up to another level.
Yeah.
So thank you, each one of you, for respecting that container.
And if any of you down under want to attract me and my beloved here back there, get a giant vacuum cleaner hose and just suck us on back.
Yeah,
I know Dan's got a plan.
So it's such a delight that 3 months, every minute of every day was magical. It wasn't a second that we said, oh, what are we doing here? Or what? I mean, the care, the love that was given to us was beyond the beyond. So it just,
Connie,
look,
as
we're
I
all
say-
here. We're all here. This
Here
is
we
a
are.
big, happy family. Every
It's the
single
mob,
one of
the
us.
mob.
as I say, Connie, if it's meant to be, it will happen.
That's right. That's right, Joan. Yeah.
So Janice, the big hallway, the connector, just brought us all together in one way or another. So thank you, Janice.
Janice, you
just
played a
wish you'd
great-
been there with us.
You did
Other
play
than
a
in
major
spirit.
role in every moment of this, ever since we had the idea. We were on the phone with you when the idea actually crystallized.
Yeah. So thank you,
We were
everyone.
trying to figure out what to do on our honeymoon. That was so difficult.
No, the call came from Australia and had been sitting in his heart for many years. He wanted to get to Australia, and then the
Yeah.
call came from each of you, and Dan and Uncle Lewis and everyone,
And then
the Mungos.
Shayla showing up. Whoa. Amazing. Magic, magic, magic.
It
And the
feels
Bulbas
like,
adopted us.
yeah, we definitely did. And
We
you
did.
seeded this whole chat here, Connie, and gathered us here. going back 4 or 5 months ago. It feels like there's so much energy here. And as you said, Andrew, it's been such an amazing, beautiful call. My sense is let's leave it till after Christmas. Maybe we, instead of 2 weeks, why don't we meet up in 3 weeks?
Perfect.
You reckon 3 weeks rather than the month?
I think that's great.
Let's do
Yeah,
that
and
so we can check in, just before New Year. Maybe that we can all regroup and do a new round of agreements for the next, going into 2025. So let's leave it for 3 weeks and use this beautiful energy that's here. Each one of us send it to where it may be called. Maybe Connie and Andrew being called here for Dad and the 25th anniversary and all that beautiful stuff you said, Greg. They're coming. Janice. Dan.
That's New Year's Eve. That's New Year's Eve. 3 weeks.
Oh. Okay. Dan's got his hand up.
Yeah, well, we're talking with Janice and Double about doing an event with Phil Lane stuff on the solstice around that period. And we wanted to have the focus about the dreaming, and this conversation that we're having could be an extension of a Zoom that Gubble speaks on these topics, and we build in, and we can use that as a potential platform as well to consider.
Yay.
Let us know the details.
Yeah, also I'll chat with Tracey, Janice, and Gubble behind the scenes, and we'll come back to this group in terms of what Janice is going to come up with some ideas of some times that might already work, and then I'm going to chat with Gubble about the theme, and I'll report back to him and we'll have Tracey there as well, so we'll be able to shape the discussions with Gubble to fit back into this group's sort of this wisdom and what's evolving out of this. So that sounds great.
And I'm happy to turn around and come straight back again.
We're doing the circle that Janice mentioned.
Yeah.
So what about, it sounds like with that beautiful moment that's going to happen somewhere in the middle of this, our actual structure of our group, we're talking about a month. We'll miss the next one and we'll just regroup. It sounds like the first week of January or something, whenever.
Maybe the solstice.
We'll leave it over to Dan.
And Dan, how's that baby boy? How's that baby boy?
It is sensational. It is amazing. It's it's every day he's getting amazing. I've got him singing. We're singing a song and we've got our own dance going. So that's the big report. He's got his dance moves really shaping up. And on a personal level, we're trying to train him on the potty rather than using nappies. And he's had about 22 pees in the potty and 8 poos. So we're celebrating that as a parent. And that's the big details of my life when I get back there. But I've got a break. I got some sleep last night. It was amazing.
That is amazing.
So, but it's going great.
Goodbye, everybody. So
Bye,
beautiful
Joan.
to see you all.
We love you.
Bye,
Look
Joan.
forward to next time.
Love you.
Big love.
So happy
Big
each of
love.
you are here.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Connie and Andrew, and Shayla for your singing, and everyone
Yeah.
for being here, and for Dad.
Nice to have Maureen with us. Maureen, you have to become a
Maureen,
permanent.
it's so good to see you.
I know, it's just filling up my heart to be here. So, Connie, thank you for thinking to include me. That's just lovely. And my heart is full. So great to see you, Shayla and Dan,
You
and
too.
everyone, Joan, everybody. And nice to meet you, Jenny, sort of face to face. And nice to see Jim again. And always lovely, Joan. And of course, Janice, and I continue in our continuing. So down the hallway with Janice. So it's such a treat.
Oh, okay.
Total-
Have an
Total
awesome
gift.
moment on Trinity Beach, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Night,
you.
night.
Bye.
Bye,
Have a
Jen.
good
Bye,
day.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Love, love, love to all and happy holidays, whichever one you
Holidays.
decide
Yeah,
to
happy holidays.
Holy
express
days.
yourself
Holy
through
days.
and enjoy.
Yeah. Thank you, Janice.
Great to see you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Have a great
Tracy,
weekend,
you need
Tracey.
to
Love to
report to
Rachel.
me.
Love to Rachel.
Tracy, WhatsApp me from your adventures, remember.
Yes, I
Okay.
will. I've got you on WhatsApp. What? I can't even say it right now.
Right. We
Blessings.
All
got
right,
it.
I'll be in
Okay.
touch.
Love to all. I got to go get pumpkin
We're
pie for
going now.
mom.
Bye-bye.